Hey, welcome to Mornings with Maggie. This is Maggie Shayne, and this is Mornings with Maggie. I am here at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays every week. And today is Friday, and on Mornings with Maggie, Friday means book talk. So today is book talk, and this week's topic is my series, Wings in the Night. I have never checked, but this might be one of the longest running series in romance history. Wings in the Night began in 1992. And, the first one was published in 93. I sold it in 92. And Wings in the Night is kind of the epitome of my career. They are the books that made me Maggie Shayne. They're the books that put me on the map. So we're going to talk about Wings in the Night today, and good morning, Raina. And yes, it's Wings in the Night today on Mornings with Maggie. I hope everyone pops in. So I really want you to give me all your questions. I'm not going to feel at all distracted here. I'm not channeling anything. I'm not on script. I'm just going to tell you the story. Good morning, Lila. She loves Wings in the Night. Thank you, Lila. I'm so glad that you're here. So I want to tell you guys how Wings in the Night began. Many, many years ago, when I was a little budding writer who had never published anything and just had a vague notion that this was what I was supposed to be doing with my life, I had an idea for a vampire story. Good morning, Sandy. Thank you. You too. And so I had this idea for the vampire story, and I wrote it and I submitted it to several magazines that published short stories. And it was a very short version of Twilight Fantasies. And so I sent it all around, and I got rejections and rejections. And then finally, one magazine accepted the story for publication. But it came back to me with a letter saying that as soon as I sent them some ungodly amount that seemed to me like $60 for a subscription, they would be happy to publish the story because they only publish stories from their subscribers. So I may have been young and naive, but I wasn't stupid, so I didn't do that. And then I decided to expand it into a book. And at that time, there was no such thing as paranormal romance. It wasn't even a genre yet. It wasn't even a term. So there was nothing out there. So I started expanding it into a book. And during the process of my writing it, and everyone telling me I was never going to be able to sell it because it wasn't a thing. There wasn't a line. No one was buying this. No one was reading this. No one was writing it. While I was writing mine, out came a series by an author named Lori Herder. And Lori wrote a book called Obsession. And it had 3 sequels. It was Obsession, Possession, Confession, and I think the 4th one was Eternity. So I always forget there's a 4th one because it doesn't end in ION. But there are 4 books in that series. And if you can find them, yay, because they're out of print and they're not being put back into print anytime soon. So I really would love to see e-versions up someday. They were phenomenal books. They inspired me so much. So Lori Herder beat me to the vampire punch, so to speak. Good morning, Dawn. Merry meet. So anyway, her first one came out before mine. I sent mine out, and I wasn't getting very much results. And then suddenly, I heard about this new line opening up called Silhouette Shadows. And apparently, Silhouette, which is now part of Harlequin, but then was its own separate company in 1992, launched this line of paranormal romances, and it was the first thing of its kind. Leslie Wanger conceived this idea. She was the senior editor. I don't know if she was senior editor at the time. She was definitely an editor there. And she was always ahead of her time with this stuff. I'm telling you, the woman is brilliant. So I sent the book out, and they bought it. Now, they sent it back, required some revisions before they could publish it because I was an unheard of, unknown, unproven author. Good morning, Lisa. And she's read all the Wings in the Night and loves them. Thank you, Lisa. So I had to do the revisions, and while I was doing those revisions, they bought and published another book by me called Reckless Angel, which is now just titled Reckless, and that was my very first novel. It was released from Silhouette Intimate Moments. So I was actually revising Twilight Fantasies to resubmit when they published Reckless. I've always thought of Twilight Fantasies as my first book. They came out, they did eventually buy it, obviously, and they came out 1 month apart. So Reckless was technically my first book published, but in my heart, it was always Twilight Fantasies. And I have here for you, treat. I love seeing this. Treat, treat, treat. This is the original cover of the first edition of Twilight Fantasies, and this book is my baby, and I just love this. This is like one of my kids. I love this story. So, isn't it cool to see that cover again? I just love revisiting these old things. And then the second one was Twilight Memories. And I want to tell you about Twilight Memories too, because look at this cover. Oh, my word. It's something else. And Rhiannon, I don't know if you can see here, but she has the blue, bright blue eyeshadow. And I think Rhiannon has always hated me for allowing her to wear bright blue eyeshadow in 1993. But nonetheless, this was the first introduction to Rhiannon. Now, Rhiannon has become kind of the muse to me for these books. She is the main character of book 2. And again, we didn't see her in book 1. And when I started outlining book 2, she was actually the villain. And Leslie Wanger and Melissa Sennett, who's an author in her own right now, but then was my very first editor. She's the one who discovered me. She's actually the one who bought that first book. She and Leslie both agreed that Rhiannon was too strong a character to be a villain, and they wrote me back after they saw the proposal and said, why not try making her the heroine? She's really just jumping off the page and stealing the book anyway. It might as well be her book. And that was the birth of Rhiannon, and I made her the heroine, and the big challenge of writing it was, that's the one you have, Lila? You have that version? Yeah, with the blue eyeshadow. So it makes us old, doesn't it? Anyway, Rhiannon kind of took over. And the challenge of writing her into these stories was to not let her be outshining the hero and making him appear weak by comparison. And I think that's why I gave Roland this inner beast that he had to contain inside him to make him a little more menacing and a little more, just a little bit scary, and give him a little bit of an edge, because being in a scene with Rhiannon is not an easy thing for any man to handle. And Roland was one of the few who could. So that's a little bit about where Wings in the Night got started. And for anyone who may not know, Wings in the Night, the first book was published in 1993. The most recent book was published last year in the new spin-off series, Wings in the Night Reborn. There have been 24 titles, I think, total, and there will continue to be Wings in the Night books. In fact, in 2017, I intend to publish at least one more, and I'm hoping for 2. I want to get right back to my Wings in the Night after the next Brown and DeLuca. I'm going to do a little Brown and DeLuca after the McIntyre Man, then Brown and DeLuca, and then back to Wings in the Night for 2017, and I really enjoy it there. Rhiannon kind of haunts me when I'm not writing her. And by the way, you can interact with Rhiannon too. She is the hostess, with the mostest, of the Wings in the Night Facebook page. And if you look at the title of this video, instead of just writing Wings in the Night, I actually tagged the page Wings in the Night. So if you don't know about it, it's right there. There's also a website dedicated to Wings in the Night. It's wingsinthenight.com. So you can see all the titles there. I haven't, put any fresh material on there in a little while, but it does have the full title list, and it does have all the buy links and all the latest covers. Now, just recently, just last year, Harlequin decided to reissue all of the original Wings in the Night series in order, with the novellas go into the backs of some of the books so that they are in the proper reading order. And I worked with them to get this done. They put really beautiful new covers on them. I can't praise them enough for these covers. The Wings in the Night have always had gorgeous covers, and they just keep getting prettier. So, and those are all listed at wingsinthenight.com. And also, if you just go to maggieshayne.com and click on Paranormals, it's the first 2 topics on the top of the page are Wings in the Night and wingsinthenight.com. Good morning, Mary. How are you? I love your profile picture with the kitty. That's adorable. Good to see you here. So again, we're talking about Wings in the Night. The series 93 to 2015 with really very few breaks. There's been a couple years without a Wings in the Night title here and there. I actually ended the series at one point, and then I just couldn't stay away from it. Rhiannon just would not let me leave me alone. She talks in my head. She's the most real character I've ever done. I think that Rachel DeLuca in my thrillers is kind of the sassy, modern, mortal version of Rhiannon, but Rhiannon is really the queen of my storyline and kind of my secret alter ego. You know, she's tall and lean, and I'm short and not. She's like the me I want to be. So that's a little bit about Rhiannon. I did make a real bonehead error in Rhiannon's first story, which was Twilight Memories, and I actually had Rhiannon and Roland in a car, and I think he was in the back seat and she was in the front. There were a group of them going out on some mission, and she glances up and meets his eyes in the rearview mirror. Well, I have kept to the tradition of the vampires not being visible in a mirror, so none of us caught it. I think the errors are sometimes the funniest part. And again, that's probably something that if and when I eventually regain the rights to these titles, which obviously it won't be anytime soon because Harlequin just reissued them all with brand new covers, so that gives them a little more time. But in this case, I appreciate it. I love having them all out there and available. And I'm working with them. I'm trying to talk them into doing a little special on them for October, because when better to promote vampire novels. So good morning, Betty. How are you? I'm so glad that you're enjoying the books, and you're very welcome, and thank you for being here. So we did have that error of the mirror look in book 2, and it was never fixed. So if I ever get them back, I'll fix it. If they ever do like a big blown up version where I blow them up into 100,000 word novels, I'll fix it. Anytime I get the opportunity, I'll fix it. But in the meantime, let's just consider it endearing, okay? We'll just agree that it's a cute little error. So the third book of the series, these were the first 3, this was the trilogy, was Twilight Illusions, in which I did not know that Vinny from Welcome Back Kotter, aka John Travolta, was going to pose for my cover. I mean, really, come on. Doesn't that look like a very young John Travolta to you? It sure does to me. But he was a magician. This is Damien, and he was a magician, posing as a magician. He was actually a vampire, and so his skills were very real. I had a lot of fun with this one. Good morning, Shell. Oh, her life-saving series. Yeah, Shell, my dear friend Shell, was reading this series as she got through chemo and radiation, and she credits this series with saving her life. I credit Shell's indomitable spirit that rivals Rhiannon at her best. Nothing's going to keep this woman down. But thank you, Shell, for saying that. It does my heart good. So that was book 3. So we had a great time with these books. And then we went on. Now in book 3, I had done ancient Egypt for Rhiannon's backstory. So I started to research and try to find out what's a society older than ancient Egypt. And I started digging and doing a little reading and asking people questions. And people kept coming up with Sumeria. Some people call it Sumeria. It's actually Sumer, ancient Sumer. And that society was, circa 3000 BC and even a little bit earlier and quite a lot later. So that was way earlier than ancient. Okay, we had a little glitch there. I was talking about ancient Sumer and where my interest in that society originated. It was in book 3 as I researched Damien's background. He turned out to be the original King Gilgamesh reincarnated. And there's an Epic of Gilgamesh. If you get a chance to read it, do. It's fascinating fiction written back in 2500 BCE. So fun stuff. That hobby of studying ancient cultures became a lifelong hobby. I have reams of material on ancient Sumer and Babylon, and I have recordings of their old songs and prayers recreated in the original language as close as the professors at the University of Pennsylvania could get to them. I listen to those. They've put them to music using the original, replicas of the original instruments that were used at the time. It's absolutely fascinating to me. And I think the reason why is because they invented the first written language. And another thing I discovered was that the first best-selling author was a priestess who, let me see, her name was Enheduanna. And she was a high priestess of the temple at Lagash in Sumer. And she wrote stories of Inanna in clay tablets. And these clay tablets, these stories, were rewritten and rewritten and rewritten by children practicing their letters, male children most likely, practicing their letters in clay tablets all over the country. And so the story was very widely known. And she was the first author that we know of whose name actually appeared on her work, Enheduanna. So that fascinated me because I'm a woman author and that's a big deal to me. So does anybody have questions? We have Lila here. The scene that runs through her head the most is the bathtub scene in the first Wings. I will tell you, ladies and gents, I wrote a lot sexier back in the 90s than I do now. And always the vampire series have been more erotic and sexier than anything else I've ever written. And I guess it's just inherent in the vampires. And it also might be because for the most part, Rhiannon is telling the story in my head. So I'm just basically taking dictation from those. I know that makes me sound a little crazy, but I think most writers are. And like I said, she's the most real character there is to me. I had a little back and forth with her on the Wings in the Night page the other day that it made me laugh. I don't know if it made anyone else laugh. So the good news is Wings in the Night lives on. We've got Wings in the Night Reborn. All of the books are listed on the website, on MaggieShayne.com and also on WingsInTheNight.com. So Wings in the Night Reborn is just because there's really no reason for it to be a separate series, except that there were 20 books in the first series. And most new readers don't want to start at the beginning of a series that already has 20 books published. So in order to try to bring in new readers, as well as living up to the expectations of my old readers who mean everything to me, we did Wings in the Night, Reborn. And that is the same cast of characters, although of course we're bringing in new characters. Every series needs fresh blood, so to speak. Dun, 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 bad pun time. So I make myself laugh. I don't know if any of you are laughing, but I'm giggling my butt off out here. So Wings in the Night Reborn. We started with Twilight Guardians, and I want you to know that Twilight Guardians is free because it is the first book of a new series, and I always try to have something at the beginning of a new series that's free so people can get a sample and see if they like it before they start investing money. So Mary was laughing. Thank you. Lila laughed. Yay, a couple of you like bad puns. That's why you're my readers. The books are usually full of them. I think I had Roland wearing a Grateful Dead t-shirt at an event at one point, probably in book 2, way back then. And it was one of my favorite things to do. I love funny things like that. So anyway, Wings of the Night Reborn. Okay, Twilight Guardians, book 1, free. It is in print as well as Of course, it's not free in print because it cost me money to print it. So, but it's free in E. And if you didn't know, the little girl on the cover of Twilight Guardians is my youngest daughter, Lisa. So if you look at the cover of Twilight Guardians, that's my girl right there with that beautiful red hair and those eyes. Is there anything better than a bad pun? Lila wants to know. No, Lila, as a matter of fact, there's not. Well, chocolate, and sex. But then, bad pun. They're definitely third on the list. Okay, so after Twilight Guardians comes Twilight Vendetta. We have a really macho new hero in Twilight Vendetta that I really enjoyed a lot. In my mind, he was kind of loosely based on The Rock, who I think is very pretty. And he has really nice skin. And I like looking at him sometimes, but don't tell my husband. And he's like the only one I look at besides my hubby, because I think my hubby's the hottest thing since baked bread, as they used to say. Anyway, the third book is the Rhiannon Chronicles, and you got a little bit of a condensed version of the Rhiannon Chronicles last year in a serialized version that I gave away free, a chapter at a time in my newsletter. just like I'm doing this year with a new Brown and DeLuca novel. But at the end of the novel, I take it and I do another draft, and then I do another draft, and then I do another draft, and it gets longer and fatter and meatier and denser and more complex. And it ends up being a full-length novel, and then I'll publish it. And that's what happened with Rhiannon Chronicles. So the first version, the raw kind of serialized version, was free in the newsletter, but then you got a bigger, meatier, double the length, double the storyline version in ebook and print form. And that was the Rhiannon Chronicles. There was also a novella in the Wings in the Night Reborn series that was published by Berkeley in an anthology with Christine Feehan headlining. And that is called Edge of Darkness, I think. Might have been. Titles really elude me when I'm live on Facebook. Isn't that strange? I need my readers out there like typing in the titles for me so that I know what I'm talking about. But we did an anthology with Christine Feehan, and it did have another. It was called Dead by Twilight was the name of my story. And that's probably why I can't remember the name of the title of the anthology, because I didn't come up with it. But my story was Dead by Twilight. And that kind of kicked off, too, to maybe reach a few new readers. Christine and I share a lot of the same fans, and that's a fun thing. So that's a little bit about the new series. So I have not yet decided what book will be next, and I am open to suggestions. So next year there will definitely be a new Wings in the Night. If anyone has questions, post them now, because I'm getting ready to wrap this up. It's been 20 minutes. That's a little longer than I usually go. But let me just recap a little bit for those of you who joined late. This is Mornings with Maggie. I am here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. You can click the little follow button on your screen if you want to be notified whenever I'm on. And Mondays, we do a Storytellers Masterclass. Wednesdays, we do a Law of Attraction Masterclass, and I've got a really good one of those for you next week. We're going to talk just touch a little bit on what's been happening in the world and my theory about why and where it's all leading us on Wednesday at 10 a.m. And then on Friday, good morning, Lana. I said your name right this time. Yay, good for me. And then on Fridays, it's always Book Talk, and we will discuss one series or another of my books. And I think maybe this coming Friday, we're going to talk about the brands of Texas. We're going to go back and visit the Texas brands a little bit and talk about how that series came about, and the various spin-off series, because that's another one that just keeps going forever. So I just want to thank you all for being here. I hope you'll give the page a like, and come back and see me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Mornings with Maggie. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.